Welcome to Atikin Plays Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic. All right, hi, this is Atikin and welcome to Series 4, Episode 18 of Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic. In this one, we are going to set up our coal, finally. We're going to set up a coal mine, show you how to kind of make it easy on yourself to get a road to the coal mine, and we're going to set up the whole infrastructure it takes to support getting coal off that mountain, processing it, getting it to a power plant, or getting it to our steel mill. So what I'm doing right here is just looking for the best spot for the mine, and of course that just means maximize those green dots. So what I'm looking at here is where can I place this thing to maximize, and it just so happens that the spot is actually down the hill a little bit, which makes it easier. Anytime you can get flatter ground, you're better off. And then I realized, hey, I don't have a construction office up here, so I'm going to put in auto build in a construction office and put in some excavators and bulldozers. Now I'm intentionally putting it up on the mountain a little bit, so I'm going to have to pay a few rubles to get that flattened out and place the building, but I want it up out of the way because I feel like I'm not going to be building up there, and I want that construction office out of the way so that I can get my town going without having it interfering. So build it automatic, and I'm going to staff it up with excavators and bulldozers. And there, I thank goodness I turned off the auto build. That auto build is very dangerous, as we've seen in other episodes. So now that we have the ability to do our kind of quote free unquote terraforming, we're going to again figure out where do we want to place that mine. And you can see there's a couple of really good spots, and there's other not quite as good spots more to the right of the screen. So here's kind of the trick to keeping from driving yourself crazy with the road up there. All you have to do, now this one is super easy, but this technique works even if we put this thing up in the mountain somewhere. You basically just drag down from that site and then drag up from the bottom, and what you're doing is building a kind of a gentle slope. You're not building necessarily, that's not necessarily level ground or whatever, but you can see it's level enough to place a road. And what you're doing is basically kind of building this little cone that's going up to the mine, and just using the speed and power of this road leveling, which is much faster than, as far as I can see, it's much faster, more powerful than any other kind of terraforming you can do. So you're just basically setting up, okay, I want to get up here to this general area. I want to make sure that I have a nice gentle slope to drive up there so I can easily place a nice straight road. I don't have to build one of these weird serpentine roads to get up there. And then you can also use the same technique, which we'll do here, to kind of flatten out the area where the mine's going to be, because there's two things. Now when I first started doing this, I would take the coal mine, put it first, and it'd be up on some hill somewhere, and then when it was being built, it would flatten out. It has to be on flat land. It would flatten out, and then I'd get this big drop off on my road. I think a lot of you tried this game have experienced that, where you go, oh my God, how am I going to get a road off here? I've seen people, but I've done it. I've seen people build bridges off of there just out of frustration because they couldn't place their roads. But if you do this first, if you just sort of level your way up to that mine and just keep leveling the ground around it to the place where you want to put the mine, then when you put the mine in, just watch it and make sure that it doesn't dig a big hole or rise up or whatever. It'll typically build a hole, but it's going to level the ground underneath it. See how it's yellow? It's going to level that ground. You don't care if it levels it some. You just don't want it to create a big change in altitude between the land you just flattened and where you place the mine. So as long as we don't get massive changes, so here we go, we're holding it down, and it is flattening a little bit. And what we'll do is just watch it, and if we can get a road out of there, we're good. And if we can't get a road, we'll just start over. But see how look how easy that was. So here's a coal mine with a nice straight, relatively flat. I mean, it's obviously going up a slope, but a relatively flat, straight road right up there to the coal mine. So if we want to run buses, we can run buses up there easily. We could even do trains. I mean, if you can run a road up there, you could run a train track right next to it and run a train up there if you wanted to, however you want to get up there. But that's the whole point is, you know, sorry, the whole point is you want to have that easy road that you can build. Now what I'm doing here is measuring. I'm looking to see the pollution from those existing oil wells. And then I kind of figured that out and figure out if I drag out about 250 meters away from there, then I've got enough buffer so I don't have to worry about pollution from that oil rig that's right there on our screen. So I just basically put a little road there and mark the spot, and it kind of tells me I want to build my little town. The way we're looking at it, below that upper mark, the road, and to the left of the road that we built up to the coal mine. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to leave space over to the right where you'll see what's coming over there. And I'm checking the fire coverage and confirming that, yes, indeed, we'll need another fire station out here to support our coal industry and our power that we're going to put in. All right, so now we're going to check the spreadsheet to just get an idea of how big a city do we really want to build. So I'm looking at power, and I'm thinking, all right, if I set up power and I export that power, what's that going to look in terms of profit? And you can see if I don't have to import coal, you can make a little trickle income off that. Now, the way I've got this set up right here, you're actually losing money if you don't import coal. That's probably not totally true. It depends on the prices and everything, but you could probably get away with importing some coal and running power and getting a trickle income. But it doesn't matter. I'm not really worried about the profitability of this. What I'm worried about is getting all the sizing right. So what I'm thinking is, okay, well, all right, if I have 2 coal ore processors, what does that mean I need in terms of cinema, fire station, etc.? And I set that, and then set up extra workers. The additional workers are the ones who need to go up to the coal mine, the coal ore mine, and actually to the power plant as well. So I probably have this a little underestimated. It probably should be a couple hundred for the mine, and then at least 20 for the first power plant. So that would be 220. No, I'm good. Never mind. I'm better than I thought I was. So we've got extra workers to cover the coal mine and the power plant. Then we've got our 2 coal processing plants. We've got that covered in terms of people. And then we figure out, okay, we want the fire station, hospital, cinema. We want a couple of kindergartens. And the way I do the kindergartens, the way I'm starting to think about them is I look at the number of flats I need, and I think of them as kind of sets. So 5 to 6 flats of the bigger flats with a school and a kindergarten seems to work out pretty well. So you do 5 to 6 flats in a kindergarten. We got to have 13 or 14 flats based on this plan right here. So that means we're going to need, right there it's 15 flats. So we're going to need probably at least 2, probably 3 schools and 3 kindergartens. And I'm not, let's see. I'm sorry. Obviously I played this earlier, and I'm talking about and I'm thinking ahead to something that I see later on. We'll get to that when we come to it. Doesn't matter. The idea is you're trying to get a ballpark guesstimate of how big you want your town to be, and based on all the things that you're trying to support. As I said, I played this before, so if you ask me what I'm thinking right here, what I'm thinking is I don't know, but here's a thought. I'm looking to see if I would want to build over there to the left. So what I'm going to do here is actually measure out using that our little pack rat trick to measure out from that oil rig, and I'm going to give it about 250 meter buffer there, and I'm going to draw another line in the sand, so to speak, and that just tells me that I can build to the left of that road I just put down, and I can build down below both of those two roads up there. So they're kind of markers to tell me where can you safely put residences that will stay away from the pollution from that oil rig. So now I'm just testing the ground. So if you kind of take one of your flats and just drag it around the ground, you can get an idea. If everything is green or yellow, you're good. Because I personally do not like these perfectly flat builds. First of all, as I've told you, I hate terraforming. It disgusts me. And secondly, I think the cities look, I'm not really big on the look, but I think they look more natural when they're sitting on the side of a hill, in concert with the slope of the land, not just some artificial giant flat spot. I see so many people who are into city builder games and they just have this giant, massive, flat spot. And to me, the town starts looking really artificial. I mean, it is a game, I realize that, but the towns look really artificial. I think they look great, particularly a little town like this that's going to support a coal mine. It needs to be on a hill. I mean, these things are in the hills. They're not in some flat spot. So but if you can get yellow and green all over, you're good. You can place those buildings, and don't forget that those paths can go up and down tremendous slopes, and people can walk up and down those slopes. So it's not an issue. So anyway, what I wanted to do here, starting out, is have a set of flats that are close to that road that's going to lead up to the coal mine. And obviously I'm seeing a bus line or train line, it could be, but in this case it's a bus line that's going to run up that hill and take people to work in the coal mine. And well, there's not much to say. You can see what I'm doing. I'm going to put in a path set here, and then, and yeah, let me talk about, I've had questions about, the really compact builds that I make for city plans and why I don't put road access to the flats. Well, I want the compact build because of efficiency. I want all these flats to be able to walk to, and I apologize, I've said this 48 times, but here comes 49. I want all these flats to walk to the shopping center and to walk to the hospital, and from the shopping center and hospital be able to walk to the pub and cinema. And that way they get almost all their needs met. You throw in some playgrounds out near the housing, and you've got yourself happy people. And if they can all walk, that walking is the best way to move around in this game. It beats trains, it beats buses, it beats everything. Walking is the way to go. So so what I want to do is, obviously I want to have this little bus station I just put in, hook up with this road going up to the coal mine. So I'm going to have to play with the terraforming a little bit, because we have kind of dug out that earth and didn't keep going with it over here, as far as we're building. So we'll just have to find a place where we can get the flat connection and go from there. And really all it amounts to is just do a little bit of leveling. If we just level this over, so I'm kind of using the road as the point I want to level from, and just leveling a little bit over through here so that we can get the road started. And once you can get the road started off there, then you can use the road tool to level it off if you need to do any more. And again, I don't like things that are too level, but obviously there has to be a certain amount of evenness or you can't build. So now, there we go. Now, just by doing that little bit of leveling, we got enough that we could build a road coming across. Now all is well. Now we can hook that up to our bus station, and we're good to go on that little part of it. And I wanted to see, given the fact that that's that tight little space there, it seemed like an awful good place to throw in a couple of playgrounds. There we go, beautiful. So now we've got the potential to have people walk over to a bus, grab the bus, and go up to work in the coal mine. And I think I'm going to kind of let this speak for itself a little bit. I mean, there's not, if there's something that I'm thinking about that I think is useful for you, I'll add a comment. But basically, we can kind of watch this run. And in fact, I am going to fast forward some of this just because of the repetitive nature of it. And I'll slow it down when there's something, really worth discussing. So I want to have each of these little modules or groups of flats, I want them to be able to walk to however they're going to get to their work, which is the bus stop, and I want them to be able to walk to some parks, and I want them to be able to walk to a school and a nursery, and that's the part that I just finished building. So now I'm looking ahead to what's next, and what I want to have is you can kind of go in this in two directions. You need to kind of bring the coal ore down the mountain to storage and to processing, and then wherever that processing is going to go, and then you can also look at it from the other end. Where's it going to go, and work your way backwards. So I decided there to go down here and think about, okay, where would I want to put power plants since I'm going to have all this coal eventually? What am I going to do with them? So I wanted to line up power plants down here kind of right up against the oil rigs, so all that pollution's down there in the same place and away from our town. So we're going to line up 3 power plants here right in a row. Now, we're not going to build them all right off the bat, but we're going to have them planned out and ready to go. And as we see ourselves, getting a good coal supply and what have you, we can then build the additional plants. But I want to kind of line them up and think ahead and get, like I said, 3 of them set up here. And if you'll remember, we have the power plug, so to speak, coming off of the steel mill over there to the right of the screen. And we'll be able to plug in one of these power plants directly into that, which will hook our created power into our lower grid. We really have 2 electric grids here. We have a western block grid, which is up at our refinery where we're importing power from Berislav, and we have our eastern block power grid, which is down here. We're importing power from Molten. Of course, we want to switch that around. We want to provide our own power and perhaps even move into exporting the power to turn the power into an income source rather than a drain on our economy. So now that I have the power plants, I can think of what's the next thing I want to do. And I'm actually wrong here. I'm one step out of place here. So I'm just going to shut up till I finish messing this up, and then I'll come back and show you how I should have done it. And obviously, I'm thinking you build out your coal ore processing and you dump that coal into the power plants, right? Now, that sounds great, but what I really want is I want to have storage so that coal can go into a large aggregate store and I can do whatever I want with it. And I don't want the consumption by the power to drive how much coal I produce. So if I produce more coal than those power plants need, I want to make sure I can store it somewhere. So what I'm going to do here now is put a large aggregate store in a place where I can take that coal and distribute it to eventually to all 3 of these power plants. But you'll see also I want to be able to move this coal over to the steel mill. So now this is better. Now I've got storage in between the processing plants and the power plant, so that the processing plants can create coal and then put it in that storage, and then it can be used as appropriate. Now what I'm doing here is lining up the hardest thing on these is just lining up the ins and outs on the conveyors and all that stuff, and where you're going to put your roads and all that. I mean, it's just this big giant exercise in working out that puzzle. And so what I'm doing here with this coal ore processing, I've never done it this way, but I actually liked how this turned out. I'm lining them up; they're kind of pointing the same direction, but that puts their output over there on the right, which can point it toward the storage. And it puts their input pointing up the hill, so that this storage here, where we're going to put our coal ore, can now feed both of those. So you can see how it's going to work now. The coal ore comes out of the mine, goes down into that storage that we just placed. It comes out of that storage and feeds the two coal ore processing plants. They both feed the coal storage right there. And then the coal storage will feed all three power plants and the steel mill eventually. So then, of course, you have to go through this little dance where you figure out, okay, how many of these transfer engines do I need? How many times do I have to change the angle to make it work? What's the best way to do that? And so now I'm just kind of working my way up the hill, and we're going to have to run. And that was nice. That actually worked out straight. I didn't expect it to. But here it's not going to. We're going to have to bend it, so to speak, and you bend it with the transfer engine. So you run the conveyor, of course, up to the transfer engine and then down to the plant, like so. So now we've got the middle section all set. Now we have to figure out how we're going to do the bottom section, how we're going to get it from the storage into the power plants. And here, you can play with this, and if you're good at this and have a ton of patience, you can play with this until you can eliminate. You want to eliminate as many of those transfer engines as you can, because they're just cost and overhead, and they use power and stuff that there's no point in having them if you don't have to have them. But you really need them for bending stuff. Now, right here's an interesting one. It says overlaps with existing construction. So what's happening is the conveyor I'm trying to place is actually bumping into that one I placed over there. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, I got to change these angles a little bit to make that easier. And again, this is just the little dance you do. And unfortunately, it would be really nice if you could actually see where those conveyors could hit, so you would know where to place this. But you really do have to place it and then see if it works, and if it doesn't work, delete it and do it again. So what I did there was move that one transfer over a little bit to the right to make some space, so that there's enough room to come out of there. And now, do I have it? I still don't have it. It's still overlapping. So now I'm going to have to take that transfer and move it a little more to the left of our screen to change that angle. There we go. Change the angle where that conveyor is coming out. Then we can run the connection over to that power plant. So that's two of the three hooked up. And now what I want to do out of this other side of the storage, I want to go from storage to that power plant. And it's not, again, we'll have to put in that because the angle's too great. It actually comes out at too great an angle. So to give it a chance, we're going to have to run it like so, and then over like so. There we go. And now I'm thinking, the big one. How am I going to get stuff over to the steel mill? Now, could we run trucks over there? Yes. Could we run a train over there? Yes. But I want to have conveyors running so I don't have to think about it anymore. So it just happens. And I kind of wanted the challenge of figuring out how to make this work. And obviously, I want to do it without ripping down all my power and all those roads, because they were a pain to put in the first place, especially those roads up there. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to have to come out at a bit of an angle to get over there. So I'm going to definitely need a transfer engine out this way in order to come out of there and get over at an angle I can use. Now I'm kind of just looking to see, okay, where can I go back to? And what I'm thinking here is I'm actually thinking about running out more into that oil field with the conveyors. So there, we've got a nice long connection there. That's good. And then we're just going to work our way down the hill, down to that road down there, and go kind of on the oil rig side of the power and come in that way. So when you see that must go directly, that generally means, yeah, it will work. It will come out like that, and you can get it through those power lines with no trouble. So we're going to set one up to see if we can't put a transfer engine out there and run it like that. And you just have to watch the messages. Can't build the pillar. That's actually because I've got a path down there doing our little extending that power line trick. So I've got a path down there, get rid of the path, and it should work now. Let's see. Okay, now it says must go directly from building A to building B. What's the matter here? Oh, that one I was thinking backwards. I had the output from the, we need of course the output from the transfer engine has to go to the steel mill, and I was using the input. So here we've got a hill obstruction, so that's simple enough to do. We just knock down the hill a little bit in the path between our engine and our target, in this case the steel mill. And there we go. Now we've got a connection going into the steel mill, and then we just have to run it up from that one up this way. And it would have been beautiful if it, well, now we got a couple problems. One, we've got the bridge pillars problem, which means there's stuff underneath it that's messing it up. In this case, it's those roads that we have. And I'm also looking at it to think, okay, what about length? Can I get all the way there? And you don't really know the length until you try it. So again, it makes you do a little bit more trial and error than you'd like to do. But at any rate, it looks like it's a long way. So I'm going to put another transfer right here, connect it up, and when you do that, that's going to change the angle that those pillar and the place where the pillars would fall going over those roads, and maybe it will luck out, and that'll take care of everything. So here again, we've got hill causing obstruction. So you see that error. So you just knock the hill down a little bit. There we go. Now let's see if that took care of our pillar problem on this side. And it didn't, because it cannot place bridge pillars due to infrastructure below those roads, and we can clearly see it's going right over that mud road for sure. But we get rid of that, and we still have the problem. So it's also touching the that gravel road. So get rid of. Carve out a little path in there and see if we can't get them to fit. There we go. So now that wasn't so bad. We've got a path, a conveyor connection. Now we just have to find a way through those pillars. This is the adjustment you often have to make. Your road has to give way for the pillars, and then you have to figure out how can I route the road to get it underneath the pillars. So that I can still have my road connection. And sometimes that's just a case of giving ground a little bit. There we go. So now we have our connection back. We can connect this new pillar to the road, and we'll start looking at the whole thing of how are we going to get all this connected up to the road. So this is the other thing you have to do, and when you're building these, I'm I'm going to speed up some of this, but this is like 2 hours. It took me 2 hours, over 2 hours to do this. And I'm slow. There's no doubt. I'm sure some of you could just rip this out in a few minutes, but it took me a couple of hours to plan all this out and get all these roads to connect. Because we do have a goal in this playthrough. We want every single thing we build to have fire protection. Everything that will catch fire. It does not include railroad track and conveyor pipes and power lines, because they don't seem to catch fire in this game, thank goodness, because that would be really hard to make sure you had all that covered. But we want road connections to everything, and so a lot of this coming up here will be that. Now we've still got to get the coal down the mountain from the coal mine down to our storage, but that shouldn't be too bad. It's obviously it's pointing out the wrong way, so we'll use a transfer engine to turn it back the way we want it. That went in pretty easily. Now we got to get across this the road. Now you can see our road has been, because of the way we did our pathing to make that road easy to build up to the coal mine, we have raised up the ground there. And so we're going to have to make sure that we can get over that hump. And look at that. Look at that. That worked out beautifully. Then we just come down here and voila, we have ourselves a connected up system where we can get coal ore through two transfers to the storage and directly to one processing plant through a transfer to the other one. And then from there over to the coal storage, and then down to the power plants and the steel mill. This is going to be kind of running on automatic once we get it all built and get a power plant going and get all those transfer engines and all those conveyors built, which will take some time or take some money or both. So now it's a process of going through and making sure that all those transfer engines have road connections. And this is a bit of a job. And I would just totally fast forward through this, except there's a couple of interesting things that are probably worth seeing. I'm trying to remember if this is one of them. See how we're getting the red there? That can be very frustrating because I can't get out. And you can see the big drop off there. But if we can just find a spot where we can get the yellow, now we can build a road up. Well, that didn't quite work. It will, though, trust me. Can we come off? No, we can't. It's just too big a descent, and you can see that big hill we're on. So what we're going to do here is just kind of raise that up right around that. Whoops. So that we can just get a connection and get it started. If you can get it started, and you can find a place where it's odd. If you can get it started, that was a good one to watch. If you can get it started, sometimes it'll go down that hill, which you didn't think it should. You would think, no, it won't go down that hill, but it will if you can just get it started. So that was the little trick there. Now this one, we've got to have a road coming out of that transfer engine, but you'll notice because of the angle we're running our conveyor pipe, our own conveyor is actually in the way of the road. So now we have to back up. Now we have to say, okay, I've got to sacrifice the angle in order to get the road. So now I'm seeing, well, what do I have to do to get up there to be able to connect? And you'll notice that one. If you tried to go all the way up, it was red. But if you go part of the way up and use your leveling to bring it up a little bit, then the rest of it will fit. So you know, I don't know what to say except just play with it till you get it. But now I'm thinking, no, this one, I just got this one at a bad angle. So this is that whole almost cat and mouse game you're playing where you just make your best guess, and if everything doesn't work, you have to start over. Because here we you know, I'm all excited because I got the conveyor pipes to fit, but now I've got to change that angle so that the road coming out of that conveyor it has enough room to get out and go up there and hook up with our main road. So I'm trying to see if I can just take use some way to kind of level off the this ground here and kind of even things up a little bit, so I'm not building down in that valley. And aside, that was just too much of a pain to try to do. Could have been done, but it was just too much of a pain. So I'm going to try setting this up with a different angle and seeing if I can come out with the road. And again, see that? It wouldn't do anything to drag it out the whole way, but if you take it back halfway and turn it green and then drag it out, it works. And there we go. We got just enough angle there that it fits. So now we're back. Now we're cooking. Now we've got a road. Now we've got our conveyor. So, you know. And again, those of you who are better at this, you can probably do this in a few minutes, but I can't. So the rest of this is going to be doing those same things to make all these roads fit. So I'm going to speed this up. Don't forget you can use YouTube controls if you want to slow this down and actually see what's going on. But you'll see I have to do the same thing. See here again, the angle was bad, so I have to adjust it to get the angle better so that the road will fit. But this goes on and on, so let's just hurry through this. All right, so now I'm checking just to see how many flats do I really need right there near that bus stop to go to the power plant and the coal mine. And so taking out the workers for the cinema, the fire station, the hospital, etc., because I want to make sure I get those there in that walking distance. And what I'm thinking at this particular point in time is maybe this city's going to be bigger than I originally thought. Maybe this is going to be a downtown that would serve 2 or 3 other bedroom communities. And if so, I want to make sure that I've got a big enough bedroom community to get that commute going for the coal mine and the power plants. And so that's what I'm checking here, just to see that I need, it looks like 7 flats. 6 plus a big remainder would be 7 flats that I need here. So I want to make sure that there's 7 flats in this first kind of neighborhood, if you will, and that they can all walk to the school and the nursery and to that bus stop. And actually, in this case, even down to downtown, which they'll be able to do because downtown is going to be right next to that bus stop. But that was the idea of checking the spreadsheet there. Put in 2 more flats. I'm going to try to fit them there. They're not going to work. But just looking ahead. But anyway, I want to make sure I do that. And then later I'll check to see, okay, well, how many do I need in total? And the rest of them can be built in such a way that they can walk to the downtown, which means they'll primarily work in the downtown and fill up those work slots. And these ones back here can primarily go on the buses to the various things we've got going on out here in the rest of the world. The things we're really actually building this for, the things we need to staff, the mine, the coal processing, the power plants. So, again, this just goes back to, I don't know if I finished my thought about the city design, the tight city design. I started with, I want it tight because I want the walking distance to downtown or to, the things that you need to have, as I've discussed multiple times now. But I also am taking advantage of the fact that the fire station and the ambulances from the hospital will take the paths to go to the flats. So if you tried to make flats like this and have road connections everywhere, I really obviously I like this big flat. I've used it all through the map. In fact, I got to make a point of next city I build, it's got to have something different. This is getting out of control. But you don't need the road connections for these to have fire coverage and ambulance coverage. Now, I know for a fact that the fire coverage works great because I don't think I've ever lost a flat to a fire. So I know that works. Now, where I'm not 100% sure is I know that the ambulances work, that they'll go there, but we also know that they go there at a much slower speed. So the ambulance on a path moves much slower than it would on a regular road. So you get there slower. Am I losing people to that? You know, that I don't know. If we're losing the opportunity to save a person's life because we're too slow driving down that path to get to them. But, you know, that I don't know. The jury's still out on that piece of it. But anyway, setting up some paths here, making sure that everybody can walk. This is the same, you know, kind of techniques I've used over and over again. So I do want to speed this up. I'm looking at this, and the one thing I may go back and change, be after this video offline, but I may convert that bus stop to a full size with 4 slots, because 2 is going to be really busy. I don't mind that in the fact that the buses are going to come in there and just pull in one after the other. That's okay, but at the same time, you know, 4 slots would be a lot better and a lot better throughput. And your throughput, remember I talked about throughput. It's not so important on your trains. Of course, it matters always, but the trains, it's more, you know, can they get there in time? But you do want throughput on your passenger lines, any type, whether it's a train line or a bus line, because you are trying to get workers there timely. And I'm going to have more to say about some of the really interesting things that the simulation does to warp time in this game. And after I've had a chance to study it a little bit more, I think there's some really interesting things that we can talk about, including whether or not you need the best roads. I think that's a question. Nikita asked me if I would please put in some better roads, because I can certainly afford it. And I responded that I don't really care about what they look like, but I was kind of leaving them rather primitive, you know, like gravel roads or whatever, as a test to see if we really needed the better roads. And I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a video down the road. We're going to talk about that and run some tests to see if we can't improve a few things. So anyway, where are we here? We've got our flats going. We're going to build this out. Now that I've got that one set, I'm kind of putting in okay, what does the whole big picture look like again, because I want to make sure I got the right number of total flats, and we'll go from there. And I'm just going to run the rest of this on fast forward and shut up. It's just a city build like you've seen multiple times. And again, use YouTube if you want to watch it in slower motion to see if you can pick up anything. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player, and I hope you'll join us for our next Workers and Resources Soviet Republic video. Thank you.